Welcome to the Friday Pick'em Show here on AccessWDUN.com as we are here probably our last time picking any games this week. Actually, we're not going to pick any games because who's going to pick against the two teams remaining? Welcome, guys, to the show as usual. How was your weekend, fellers?
It's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving is upon us.
Yeah, it was a crap.
It is.
You know, it was a crap weekend for college football. Unless you like watching the Gators lose again.
Well, you
That
know.
was
Can we not mention college football today?
Unless you like watching Michigan State get beat by 40 in the first half.
Gotta love it.
That was a disappointment.
Well,
that was unfortunate.
Everybody mentioned college football on the count of three. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
College football.
College football.
You're a little late there.
Seth
I'm on a delay. To me, it was in time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Seth is disappointed today.
Seth can fix that if he'll go in and he'll slide me back a little bit. Then it'll be right.
Rather not.
Seth is upset today, Caleb. He's very mad at you.
Why is he mad at me?
Well,
thanks for that lead-in, Caleb.
I'm
not necessarily mad at Caleb.
You got the approval. He didn't.
I'm upset.
The
Why
SEC
don't you explain
championship.
to the audience what you're talking
All
about.
right,
there,
so we put in for credentials for the SEC
wait,
championship.
I am actually stunned you got a credential, so congratulations.
I know you are because when I brought the idea up to you a month ago about
because I have been
Caleb, you're never going to get
negative
Nancy.
Nancy over there.
No, it's just that I mean, we've been denied in the past trying to do that kind of thing. It was really shocking. So that's good.
We were denied though as well. Seth's video photo pass was denied.
Yeah, they don't like you, Seth. You must have done something when you were last time you were at Sanford Stadium.
That's because everybody's got those 14-foot long camera lenses down there, and there's no room. So
I'm sure there are a crud load of people on that side.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's so many, and
Yeah.
I bet you the minute the minute the pass came out, the minute they were like, "Get your pass," I bet you they just all of them got it
first. Yeah, because we were about 4 days late to the party. But anyway. High school football, here we are, down to two teams in our coverage area. It's the two teams that we all kind of thought and figured that would be here, Raby County and Buford. The one that we thought also would be here was Jefferson, but unfortunately they were out in the first round with injuries. But we have two teams. We have one radio team with Buford in the quarterfinals of the playoffs. Guys, anybody surprise you last week?
Well, I'm not surprised Dawson lost. I'm just surprised by the score. We thought that was going to be somewhat of a closer game, and it was kind of there for Cherokee Bluff, but boy, that they switched offenses on them, and Bluff just really had no answer on defense on that, and that was kind of surprising. But other than that, I don't know that really too much went any other way that we thought.
I caught grief at Cherokee Bluff for picking against them last week, but even though I picked against them, I'm not surprised that they lost. I'm surprised at what transpired in that game. I'm surprised at what Jeff talked about. The star running back for Appleton County goes out. In comes this other guy who's just running for 300 and something yards, like crazy on him. And Cherokee Bluff had a 13-0 lead. It was a great, perfect start to the game. Couldn't have scripted a better start to the game. Not saying they're rooting for somebody to get injured, but just when you're looking at it from you're trying to advance and move on to the next round here.
Right.
I mean, when you're up 13-0, all of a sudden their star player's not on the field, you're feeling pretty darn good. And then it got out of hand quickly. I'm not surprised they lost because I thought it was going to be a tough game. But what happened, I was surprised at.
Right.
Dawson County's result didn't surprise me as much because Pierce County's a meat grinder, man. And if you look at Pierce County's schedule, they have gotten better as the season has worn on. And it's really hard to pull two upsets in a row like the one Dawson County pulled against Sandy Creek the week before. If I had to pick one that surprised me, I would say the how big the blowout was of Perry and Flowery Branch. That would be the one that I figured that was probably a toss-up kind of a game, honestly, just looking at it on paper. And, man, that one got out of hand quickly. I mean, that one was – it was over by halftime.
I
don't think we expected that.
I probably had put that one out of my mind because I think that one shocked me. Actually, that was the real shocker, I think. You're right about that. But I think it was so stunning, I probably just blacked it out.
Well, when you go back to the Dawson game and you go back to the Sandy Creek game with Dawson County, they played an almost perfect game.
They did.
Okay, so Friday night against Pierce County, they had 4 turnovers. They had 3 fumbles lost and an interception. And again, against a team like Pierce County,
you can't make a mistake.
You can't make those mistakes. So, yeah, after seeing those numbers, not really a surprise that they lost because we've said, throughout the year, Dawson needs to play without turning the football over.
Yeah,
and when they do, bad things happen.
I want to go back to something that Caleb brought up, and we were talking about the Cherokee Bluff game, and we can get back to that. We were talking about the running back guy that they brought in. They basically just ran a Wildcat offense. I looked up the stats at the half, like at halftime. Now, they only had 6 games listed. He only had 50 yards in 6 games running the ball.
The outside was there for him
all night long,
Holy cow.
and it was. I think I mentioned while you were sitting in there, and I think I mentioned to you. This reminded me a lot of that Fitzgerald against Raven game a few years ago, where they switched to almost like a fourth horseman kind of offense. For that game against Raven, that's what it reminded me of. I mean, they swept 8 guys to the right, and he just followed. I mean, and they just completely overwhelmed the Bears defense, and they just really they tried lots of things.
But
had no answer. Had no
answer. Bluff was never out of the game.
No, it was 27-20, and they had the ball. So you kind of felt like they were going to pull the comeback. It just wasn't meant to be.
I want to say one other thing that caught me by surprise Friday night, and that was how dominant Raven County's offense looked against what was coming into the game. One of the best defenses in Class 2A in Jeff Davis. And Raven County shredded. If you look at we've got the video highlights up at Access WDUN. You can look at the stats and all that. It might have been the most efficient, dominant performance of Gunnar Stockton's career when factoring in the fact that it's a second-round playoff game against a team that was ranked in the top 10 for a good portion of the season and had a defense that was ranked near the top of Class AA in most categories and had not allowed more than 15 points in a game all season. And Gunnar Stockton goes out, 468 yards and 5 touchdowns, or 4 touchdowns, I think it was impressive. But what was really impressive to me, 22 out of 24 through the air. Yeah. You think he's got rhythm now with some of those guys that transferred in the offseason and some of the new faces in that receiving corps? Yeah, I think they've got their rhythm down pretty good. That is a scary offense right now. 238
of those yards, speaking of transfer, goes to Jaden Gibson. And I think he hauled in 3 touchdowns. So, it's clicking right now.
No, you're absolutely right. You talk about that I believe it was Jeff Davis defense. It was. They had only given up 54 points all year, and Raven put 56 on them.
Plus two
in one game. You got to wonder if they got that last one just, for good measure. It's like, we're just going to double your defensive output for the season. That was a tremendous performance. Look, they're going to have it again this week against Thomasville, who, this is exactly where they were 2 years ago, going down to Thomasville, and were not able to come back with a win. So you got to know that, and Gunnar was the quarterback then. A lot of the main pieces, Gibson wasn't there, Baxley O'Brien wasn't there, but pretty much the rest of the group was there. They're going to remember it. It's going to be real interesting to see because they're going to have tape of that game. What are they going to be able to do this time around?
Well, speaking of that game, it's 1 versus 2, according to which polls you look at, with going down to Thomasville. Do you think the road trip is going to have anything to do with this team?
I don't think so this time. I think, we've talked about this Raven team in the past. This is where they would get to. Long road trip to the South in the quarterfinals against a good, physical, talented team, and this was this is where they would have a sticking point. I think that Pierce County game, we go back to that. Every week we keep going back to that Pierce County game that they had during the regular season. That game was picked specifically for this particular reason. They went down there, hostile environment, defending state champs, knew they were going to play a good opponent, and they were able to figure out how to win on the road against a team like that. I don't think that that's going to factor into this at all. I think Raven, this group knows how to go down. They know how to go to a place like this and win. And you look at what they're doing, Caleb, you brought that up, just the efficiency of the offense and everybody being integrated. I would think that they're going to be a favorite on the road to win this game. I'm not sure if anybody right now in 2A is playing as well as Rabun just overall.
I don't think anybody in AA is playing as well as Rabun County. I don't think anybody could really argue that. But Thomasville is going to be a tougher animal than Jeff Davis was. And that road trip is going to be tough. There's just no two ways around it. But they traveled earlier this year to Pierce. They traveled into the state of South Carolina several times. They've done this long South Georgia road trip several times before. This team is accustomed to it now. And I had a chance to talk to Jay Beauchamp on the scoreboard show after the win over Jeff Davis, and he said, he kind of laid out what their plans were about trying to get down there early so that they have a chance to kind of adjust and don't have to get right off the bus and go play with stiff legs, basically. And but he said also, they've had a chance to look back and say, maybe we do this a little bit differently this time. We liked how this worked. We didn't like how this worked. They had a chance, I'm sure, to test some of that stuff again with that trip to Pierce County this year. I don't think the road trip is going to affect them that much at all. But I do think Thomasville is going to be able to, I think, ugly this game up a lot. I think Thomasville is going to be able to disrupt things enough that this is not going to be a 56-point night for Rabun County. That's not going to happen, I don't think, down there. What they might be able to do is what they did to Pierce County, though, which is Rabun County, more than I think they've ever been, is able to grind you out with the running game. They have got 5 seniors across that offensive line, 3 of whom have been starting since they were freshmen. They're big. They've got some college prospects on that offensive line. It's the best offensive line Rabun County's ever had. I don't think that's a stretch to say that. Gunner is a big physical runner, and Lang Wyndham is a legitimate threat at running back. This might be a game where you see the Rabun County running game be the difference. And we've talked about it a lot this year. We talked about it in the offseason for all the reasons I just stated. Haven't had really a reason yet to need it, except for the Pierce County game. This might be a game where they need to lean on that in the second half, and I think they're going to be able to do it.
I would agree with you. If one key, there's a couple of key stats. You look at that Thomasville defense. It's in the middle of the pack in 2A, so it's not like overwhelming you. But they got 48.
Tough schedule, though.
Yes, they have 48 sacks as a group. I mean, I don't care what league you're playing in. That's a lot of sacks. They have the senior defensive back, Jimmy Bowdry. He has 5 interceptions, 16 pass breakups. Gunner's thrown 1 pick all year. I think, that's going to be a key matchup. Who do they put Bowdry on? Do they put him on Gibson? They put him on Baxley O'Brien? You'd mentioned Lang Wyndham. Look, he's caught a lot of balls out of the backfield as well. So they have a lot of weapons, but who does Bowdry cover? Because they're going to try to take somebody out of the game. Here's another.
Got to be Gibson.
Well, it's got to be. Here's another key stat. Thomasville's blocked 6 punts this year. Gunner does most of the punting. It's not something that they put a lot of stock in because they don't do it much.
That's what I'm about to say.
Yeah. So
how often have they punted?
Well,
this
no,
year?
but so that's going to have to be something they're going to look at. You got to figure Thomasville's going to make some stops.
Well,
so they block kicks. I mean, there's some matchups here that Rabun is going to have to figure out how to neutralize.
Okay, so Caleb mentioned a good point. They can grind it out. Well, so can Thomasville.
Yes.
Malik Harper on this team. He's got over 1,000 yards rushing. He has 19 touchdowns. They've only passed for 19 touchdowns as well. So that's an interesting stat in that. But they have 4 guys they're probably going to go to. They have actually 2 main guys. The Fulton kid, he's a junior. He's got close to 800 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. So could we see kind of both sides? Thomasville is going to come in against Gunner Stockton, the 5-star, the Georgia commit, and try to keep the ball out of his hands. So their game plan, if able to execute it, will probably be to try to grind the game out.
It could be, and I'm going to go back to the Jefferson game. That's what Jefferson did, is they grind them up. But Rabun's defense is this is a much different Rabun. I think the difference in this Rabun team and all the others before them, and the reason why I think they have a really good shot to snag that first title is not Gunner Stockton necessarily in the offense. It's the defense. They shut out that Jefferson ground game, which had all of its weapons in the opening week. They shut them out in the second half. Look what they did at Pierce. They only gave up 21 points to Pierce County. They only scored 28, but if you can make some stops, then the pressure is not always going to be on Gunner having to look. He's got to score 49. He's got to score 56. I think the key to this game is going to be the Raven defense.
And this is, listen, I want to say this too, to Raven County fans who are watching this. I from what I understand, this game's going to be televised. So you'll be able to watch it, but I'm going to tell Raven County fans this. You need to get yourself down to Thomasville. You need to take a day off of work. It's the day after Thanksgiving, skip the Black Friday shopping. You need to get down to Thomasville and get yourself to the stadium for this game, win or lose, because this Raven County, this feels like a playoff run that is the culmination of a decade of Raven County football, of the best decade Raven County football has ever had. Mm-hmm. Maybe the best decade of football that any program in the Northeast Georgia mountains has ever had. And, now you've got this team with all these seniors on it, one of the winningest senior classes in the history of the program. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I really, really believe this. If you look at the rest of AA, I think this is the state championship game. I really do. Whoever wins this game, I think they're winning the state title in AA, plain and simple. Fitzgerald will have something to say about that on the other side. But I think these are the two best teams in the state. I agree with the pollsters. I think these are the best two. If you're a Raven County fan, gas up the car, do what you got to do schedule-wise, get yourself down to Thomasville, because this is a game that is very important within the history of this football program.
I totally agree
with that. For all
those
wondering, Caleb will be supplying the gas money for Raven County natives to go down there.
I will not. Listen, I don't have that kind of money.
Caleb, that was very kind of you. This is a giving time of the year, Caleb.
You can't
Kudos
back up.
to you.
You can't back up.
That's
you
right.
Can't back it up.
Yeah. Kudos to you, Caleb.
So he can.
He's backing way up.
I will tell you, I agree. I think this is the state title game, but Callaway, the defending state champ, if Raven gets by this and Callaway wins, there'll be a rematch. And this year, if that happens, it would be in Tiger.
Yeah.
So, I think that while I think this might be this could be the state championship game, I'm guessing Raven, we really want to win this one, and we really want Callaway to win because we want a little piece of revenge that in a game that, arguably they should have won last year, but there were some things going on right at that game.
I don't think Raven cares who it is. I think all Raven cares about is getting the ring. I don't think they're concerned with who it is, where it is, any of that stuff. By the way, we're supposed to pick this game. I'm taking Raven County.
Raven.
I think I'm going to take Raven also.
I mean, yeah, Raven.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, Seth's on this podcast?
Yeah, Seth's here.
I'm here, guys.
Hi, Seth.
Haven't heard from me in a bit, but I'm here.
Okay,
begrudgedly.
Speaking of state championship games in the quarterfinals, let's climb up the ladder to Class 6A. Buford-Lee County, a rematch from last year's state championship game.
But you think this is going to be the state title game again?
I wholeheartedly believe this is the state championship game.
I agree.
And the Class 6A bracket.
And isn't it a shame? And this is one of the things about the playoffs you can't really predict. But isn't it a shame that this game is happening now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's the only drawback, because then you look down the road, it's like, okay, well, they've already had this game. Who's left? I mean, that's the only drawback to it. But it also, I think a game like this in the quarterfinals might actually give a little more heightened energy to it, because, you don't want to go out in the third round.
No, you don't. And this game is at Lee County in Leesburg, and Lee County has been preaching all week.
Oh, they've been thinking about
probably for the last month.
Look, I mean, since last December, I bet they've been thinking about this.
Yeah, you know that. That's been going for that long. But
would this be a bad time to splice in the final play from the state championship game?
It might not be. I think that would be a great place to splice that in.
While we're talking about this game, let's just remind folks how this one ended in the state championship game last year.
Shotgun as McDowell is going to keep it right side, and he's fighting. He's going to get hit at about the 3. Did he fumble the ball? Did he fumble the ball? There's a pile up down at the 3-yard line. Buford's running onto the field. I think the Wolves have the football. I think the Wolves have it at the 3-yard line. Buford's recovered the fumble. The Wolves have just won the football game. Buford's won the football game. 34-31.
Caleb, if only you had gotten excited during that call. And it was a great call, by the way.
Well, listen, I was saying, did he fumble the ball? Because I didn't know. We were up in the corner of the stadium, and I couldn't see the ball come out. The referee wasn't signaling who had the ball. All I saw were a bunch of people in a pile up, and then all the Buford players running on the field. I just had to piece it together. But I mean, that was an amazing. I'll be honest, that was probably the best high school football game I've ever seen in person. Just in terms of, I mean, those two teams were evenly matched in every way. I mean, that was
the last
anybody could. When you say anybody could have won that ball game, sometimes you're being a little facetious. No, anybody could have won that ball game at any moment. Those were two evenly matched teams last year.
It was very similar to the championship game with Buford and Warner Robins the year before. I mean, it was almost a carbon copy, other than the Warner Robins one went 2 overtimes instead of 1. But 2 fantastic games. I mean, that's what you want in a high school football. I mean, we were in the press box, Caleb, and you could hear the popping going on, and you're so far away in that Georgia State Stadium. It's almost criminal where they put you to call a game for that.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I'll say it. It's criminal.
I was down on the field for that one, and I was also confused by that last play for a brief moment.
Yeah,
you couldn't tell.
Okay, all right. So to set it up for folks that are wondering. So when you broadcast a game from the Georgia State Stadium, you are behind the old home plate. So we sit where probably Skip Carey, Pete Van Weeren, and all those guys that called Braves games back in the day at Turner Field behind home plate. Well, the field is going across.
Where that play happened was deep center field.
Yeah, from the first base dugout all the way to deep center field.
That play happened in
400 feet away.
Yes.
400 feet away.
It was at the warning track.
Yeah, at the warning track. Yes, it was. So that's what we're talking about, where we have to call a football game from at Georgia State Stadium.
And you can't see.
No.
You cannot see.
You have to watch the big board.
Yeah, and the big board was confused.
Okay, so Lee County last week, now, they struggled against Cambridge. Cambridge actually had a lead late in this game, and Lee came back late to win it 42-39. I was tracking this game throughout the night, just the scores to see if they have it. And that was a close game. For most of the night, with Lee County winning that one. Buford, on the other hand, big winners last week. They just keep winning big.
Again.
And it's their defense, guys. Their defense, and then their offense feeds off of it.
And like the Rabun County game that we just talked about, you're talking about Rabun's offense. That is the Lee County offense in 6A. They're averaging, 43 points a game. They've scored the most points in 6A, and Buford's given up 84 points, which is the lowest in 6A, 7 points a game. Something's got to give. I mean, something has to give. And this is kind of where we were last year. And, last year's game was, 34-31 in overtime. So, I think we could probably see, the thing is, can Buford score 28? Can they score 31 again to win this?
Yeah, listen, that Cambridge team that Lee County struggled with last week, and that's a fair word to use, that's a good Cambridge team. Anybody who's don't let any records or what happened last week fool you. Anybody who's expecting anything but a dogfight of a football game out of this one is either not very educated on these two teams or is kidding themselves, because that's what this is going to be.
Look,
this is going to be a grudge match. Lee County I don't know. We're not covering Lee County, so I don't know what their players and coaches are saying. If they're talking about revenge, I don't know. They can say whatever they want. There's no way revenge is not on their minds when they get on that field after the way that game ended last year.
And they get them at home. Buford, it's going to be rocking down there for sure.
And Buford is bringing that defense down there. That is just if there's a better defense in high school football right now, I haven't seen it. I'll put it that way. That defense for Buford is insanely good. Outside of Kell getting a couple of first half touchdowns in a couple of weeks ago, nobody else on their schedule has been able to do a whole lot with them. Now, I will say this, Buford will have to stop the downfield passing game because Javel Fulgerson is a real threat. I think he's got offers from Georgia Tech. I think a couple of other Power 5 schools. I think he's got offers from a couple of SEC schools. He is the real deal as a deep threat. And if you remember, and Jeff, I know you were watching that game too last year with us in the press box. If you remember, Buford's defense did a good job on Lee County's offense until the third quarter, I think it was.
Yeah.
When Lee County hit a couple of long passes on consecutive drives, and it loosened the middle of that Buford defense up, and all of a sudden the running game was there for Chauncey Magwood and Caleb McDowell.
Well,
if Lee County can hit some deep passes again this year, that's going to give Buford's defense problems
Right.
that they haven't had to deal with since the North Cobb game back in the season opener. That, to me, is the key of the game. Can Buford contain that? Because if they can, their defense is going to lock down, and there's just not going to be a whole lot of places for Lee County to go with the ball.
Well, look, they've got the guys to do it. They got Jake Pope. They got Isaiah Bond on the corners. I mean, they have the guys that can cover them. But, everybody gets beat every now and then. So you have to wonder. But, you talk about the running game. No, they don't have the guys from last year. But this freshman they had last week, I'm going to guess, Usman Kroma, 259 yards and 2 touchdowns. The kid's got 1,663 yards as a freshman and 20 touchdowns. I mean, while the passing game is going to be a threat, look, they can hit you hard with a guy like that.
Balance.
So, this will be the biggest test of the Buford defense probably since that Chaminade game.
I was about to say, Chaminade, Madonna.
Right.
That was a big test for them. They held
Huge
it to
test.
7 points.
7 points. So, but I don't know that offense is as good as Lee County. We'll have to see. It's going to be a great matchup again. The Buford's offense, it's not, it's scoring a lot of points. It's just not as explosive, I think, as maybe it could be or has been.
Not as I think it's explosive. I don't think it's as consistent.
Maybe
as
consistent. Maybe consistent is the better word. So they're going to have to score some points because I think as good as Buford's defense is, I mean, I got to figure Lee County's going to get a couple of scores.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you got to score 17. If Buford can score 17, I think they win this game. And that's going to be the real difference.
If I'm Buford, I'm going in saying as good as our defense is, I don't want to score any less than I'm gonna put the over under at 25. I think you need to. If I am Brian Appling, I don't feel comfortable unless I've got at least. I think I'd like to get about 28 points on the board, and then I'm feeling good about my chances.
I would too.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, Buford has had some struggles off and on this year, and consistency's been the issues on the offensive line, and in particular trying to get an inside running game going. They've got the backs to do it. Victor Vinn, CJ Klingscales, they've got the backs. Are they going to have the blocking in the middle of the line that they're going to need to get it? That's going to be the question mark. If Buford can't establish a running game, that's going to create some problem. That's what I mean. This is going to be a dogfight of a ball game, and it's going to be. Buford is not going to show up and be able to play their B- game and win. They're going to have to play at minimum their A, maybe their A+ game to win, depending on how well Lee County plays. I'm taking Buford, but this is going to be a tight one. This is going to be a dogfight.
I agree with Caleb. Buford rolls in this one. Where's my roll?
We didn't go to the grocery store today.
No rolls? God, I'm hungry. I haven't had lunch.
No rolls.
Maybe we'll go get some rolls.
I don't think Buford rolls.
Maybe we'll go get some sponsored Texas Road. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
No,
here we go again with
we
the
are not
Texas Road.
sponsored.
I think I'm going to agree more with Caleb. I think this it could go overtime again, and I'm going to pick Buford. But being down in Lee County with the revenge factor, and that is going to be one crazy play.
It will be.
I don't see that you can just go Buford is an overwhelming favorite in this like we normally would. This is a toss-up game.
So who you picking?
I'm gonna pick Buford, but this could be an instant classic.
I'm looking forward to seeing that crowd and that atmosphere because that crowd is going to be smelling blood when Buford comes walking out of the locker room.
Me too. I'm going Buford.
All right, guys. That's a wrap for the show today. By the way, I'm just going to bring my trophy out because I won the picks this year. So I do thank you for participating with me in the first ever.
Wait, can we get the
Pick'em.
final stat? Can we get the final stats up time?
Yeah, I think I finished like 4 games ahead of you.
Stats, do you have a graphic?
So,
I can.
We can make a graphic for that, but I have the only graphic you need here, and that is the Pick'em Championship Trophy. So congratulations to myself, Bo.
Did you repurpose the old Lineman of the Week trophy?
No, I repurposed
It's a Gabby, I think.
I repurposed a Gabby award.
That's a
that was
freaking
sitting
Gabby.
up front. Yeah, yeah. So anyway,
Well, thank goodness somebody's won one around here.
Yeah. Hey, it's fun though. This has been a fun show, guys.
It has.
It's been popular too, by the way.
Oh yeah,
because we've been heckled for our picks.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Poor
So-
Seth. Seth had to pick out of. Seth finished in last because I think he felt like he had to pick out of fear. Because
I mean,
he's down on the field, the players
there's
are
no
looking
wondering
at
about it. I did.
Yeah.
I did pick purely out
so
of
you're
fear
saying
of
that
getting
did
heckled
affect
again.
you? Feel like you should have finished higher, but you felt like you were coerced into making coerced to making.
Yeah, that sounds about accurate.
Okay.
Little coercion going on there.
Don't let any of these guys intimidate you, Seth.
But
don't let any of these guys.
Listen, as I said,
don't be scared.
Wait till we give out your home address of the coaches and players you picked against.
As I said last time, they do though. I am intimidated by some of them. Have you seen some of these kids?
Well, yeah, I was going to say
they're friggin' huge.
Ben Hall's a big guy.
I was about to say Ben Hall and freaking Tommy Jones, even Coach Bishop.
Bishop
scares me a little.
T-Lander
came up. Coach Bishop.
T-Lander came up to me at one of the North Hall games, and T-Lander is a big dude.
Well,
and AJ Jones is not the biggest dude, but his dad's a wrestler, and he looks like a mini dad. And I was just like, okay, what's about that? I was like, look, back injury, don't touch me. I was worried a couple of times, but they were good about it. But
no jokes.
No jokes?
No jokes here.
No jokes. Okay. I'm sorry. My bad.
For me.
Oh, I was like, what?
About T-Lander being a giant to you.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay. Well,
you mean, was it like that picture we had on Access? I mean, if that picture didn't show how big T-Lander is, and
we need to get in touch with T-Lander. Can we get T-Lander to hold Jeff like on his shoulder?
My. Wow.
Just think what.
I don't think I can go that high in the air. It's in my contract.
Look, T-Lander has another year.
That's actually true.
That could be true. Gwen might get mad about that.
T-Lander has another year.
He is equivalent to 1.5 flights of stairs.
Wow.
All right, guys, let's get out of here. For Caleb, he's on Twitter at Hutch9473. Jeff is at HartJJ22. I'm at the Bo Wilson. Seth is at Seth_Chap.
S Chapman _camera.
S Chapman. Yeah, I'll get it right one day.
Whatever.
I'll put it up here or something.
Put it up on the screen. Also, keyword search on Instagram and Facebook. Access WDUN Sports. For Caleb, Seth, Jeff, I'm Bo. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Bye.